So my hot take for today is onboarding and customer success beat features, because the main goal of onboarding and customer education is basically to help people to accomplish their task as quickly as possible. However, when the SaaS product grow, especially in B2B, it gains a lot of features which should be segmented and revealed only at the right time when they're most relevant to users.
Hello and welcome to another episode of One Night in Product Hot Takes Edition, where I speak to one person about one thing, get straight to the point, and find out what's on their mind. Now, I'm taking a bit of a break from new hot takes at the moment, but you can still head over to onenightinproduct.com to find all of my old hot takes, as well as longer interviews with thought leaders and practitioners, and links to the podcast on your favourite podcast app and YouTube, where you can like, share, subscribe, leave a comment or review, and let me know what you think. Anyway, enough of me, let's get straight to Alex Rastatuev's hot take. All right, so in front of me, I can see a very pale, basically nothing background, but there is a person in front of it, which is a relief. And I'm going to throw straight over to that person, ask you what your name is, what it is you do, where you're based, and most importantly, what's your hot take?
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me. Yeah, just like simple white background, simplicity is that. So yeah, I'm Alex. I live in London. I'm a senior product manager at Keyhole, which is social media analytics and reporting tool. Keyhole was recently acquired by McCrack, a leading enterprise SaaS for PR professionals. In Keyhole, I'm leading social listening, which is, in a few words, social listening allows people to search and analyze online conversation on social and get specific insights about specific hashtag, keyword, or brand mention, understand sentiment, and create reports. So my hot take for today is onboarding and customer success beat features. Why it's my hot take? Because the main goal of onboarding and customer education is basically to help people to accomplish their task as quickly as possible. However, when the SaaS product grow, especially in B2B, it gains a lot of features which should be segmented and revealed only at the right time when they're most relevant to users. And what we see instead is basically that teams try to display the entire feature set during the onboarding experience, which is basically disconnected from the actual use case persona, or they do not consider what is the stage for the user. So which leads basically to poor activation rate and negatively affects the long-term retention. So by nailing onboarding, decreasing time to value, and driving adoption, teams could fuel their product growth.
So there's a couple of ways to look at what you... I mean, obviously I agree, like you log into new products, like it's quite clear that you've got different teams that have kind of got different goals that all kind of just cram everything onto the screen, and you get so many kind of walkthroughs and intros. And I will say that, frankly, that kind of annoys me. Like, I just want to go and use the tool. And it's even more annoying when someone adds a new thing, and when I log into a tool that I've already used, and I start getting additional pop-ups and big complicated wizards and stuff, kind of cancel. But of course, that's then at the very heart of onboarding, right? Like, this idea that you have an application that that can kind of guide you through to get you to value quickly, kind of the heart of product growth and stuff as well. But I guess one of the things that you could say of that is, well, maybe products should just be simple. Like, that's a very common narrative on the social media these days, that, people should just put less stuff in their products. But is that always feasible, or do you think that sometimes products are legitimately complicated?
Yeah, I think, of course, everything depends on the product. Like, so for example, if we're talking about like multi-product experience, so then these kind of cross connections are very important. So I think if you also are interested in your product growth, you want to kind of prompt people to use as much as they need, some to even achieve more value from the product. So that's, I think, the main goal for the multi-products as well. So that, from time to time, use cases, and because of the tasks for the people, they're also are changing with the industry itself. So that's why we see this complication as well. But yeah, I think the main goal is to make the products straightforward. So just, to do not make people think in terms of how they work with your product. And I think just to highlight by analyzing data when they kind of accomplish their goals. So you also have to think about the key touch points for users so that it will open for them the functionality of your product and use cases as well.
But as what you say about data is a very sort of interesting point, because I've done stuff in the past, I'm sure you have as well, where you can use tools. We won't name any because we're not sponsored by any of them, but like you've got these tools out there that you can install. They give you kind of a mixture of kind of guided walkthroughs, but also the usage analytics, and you can kind of bring the two of those together to kind of do almost journey-based guides. And I guess also there's this idea that you can kind of look back at past data, like past trends, the types of journeys that people take, and the types of the times that things become important for them, and show them stuff just in the moment. But obviously, what you often see, and I think that's what you're kind of touching on, is just everyone just shoves everything. They don't do any of that. They just put as many walkthroughs and guides and tooltips and hovers and stuff as possible, and they don't do any of that. So, do you think that's a mindset problem or a tooling problem? Like, because it kind of feels obvious to me that they should be trying to be a bit more smart about this stuff. So why do you think people aren't?
Yeah, I think the main point is that like with the technology itself and with the tools, sometimes people they just forget that those tools they're not like they should be used not only for just for displaying things. Their main goal is to basically open the value through them. So, and if you overcomplicate the journey, for example, and so you overcomplicate the experience for your team because they have kind of feel overwhelmed with all these tools, because all the tools these days, especially like the onboarding tools, they have data. So your team, basically team got lost. And imagine it also affects how you basically work with the audience. So I think the main approach is that you should definitely understand the value of your product and how you can basically with these tools, how you can help to achieve or accomplish task. And again, like there should be like one, max two tools for your team, for the product team or customer success, that will basically help them to keep in mind all that information as well.
But again, what you sometimes see is, and maybe one of the downsides of these kind of plug and play tools that you can just use, and then like you can start to insert this stuff without developers, which obviously in itself is problematic. But one of the downsides of these tools then is that it almost becomes a full-time job managing the, like all of the different people that put stuff in there, right? Like, because, you're going to have the marketing team put stuff in there. Maybe they're going to want to put campaigns in there. You've got obviously maybe the product feature teams that are putting stuff in there. They're going to want to put stuff in around that. They'll maybe be sort of, again, other stuff that, other teams like customer success might want to get something in there because they're running some kind of outreach campaign or something. So you end up almost with the risk, at least, of like logging into a product that is almost like one of those old like 90s GeoCities pages with like banner, 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 banner. So like, but whose job is it? Like, whose job is it to kind of play, I don't know, like the conductor of that and make sure that the experience doesn't actually degrade rather than actually improve?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think so, like based on my experience, even like I think the key is with this kind of close cross-functional collaboration. So each team should basically understand where we are at the moment and like what our basically future maybe roadmap for experiments. And like in Keyhole, for example, we just divided some experiments. Like some experiment is conducted by product team, some kind of supporting materials in app guides they're supporting by customer success, and this with this collaboration with marketing team. So basically dividing the full journey and the kind of the experiments roadmap, I would say, is the key for not creating a mess and be aligned with your quarterly goals or like your long-term strategy as well.
Yeah. So I guess another interesting scenario that you might have, though, like if we take that as an extreme, like where you've got like way too much stuff, is sometimes people don't have anything. They just, like, your first experience of the tool is just you get into the front page and it's all there. And some people might naively say, well, if we make the tool simple enough to use and obvious enough to use, and it makes you think of some of those sort of social media memes where it's like, well, this is what Google looks like, and this is what the iPod looks like, and this is what your ERP system looks like, or something like that. So like, there's this idea that like products can again get too complicated. But do you think there's any kind of validity in this idea that maybe you just simplify the tool so that it doesn't need any guidance? Or do you think that guidance is something that people should always consider putting in, even if it is a fairly simple app?
Yeah, that's another great question. So I would
Making it all up as
say,
I go along, so thank you.
yeah, yeah, I would say, I think, like, these days, I think people, they're kind of complicated and overload with information. And you know guidance, because you can't you can't use a tool successfully if you don't know, like, for example, you can't ride a bicycle if you don't know, like, the basic steps, right? So, and especially these days, uh you're like, people, they're just, the competition is very tough these days, right? And even to choose, for me as a person, not like a product manager, right? It's really hard to choose the right kind of tool or instrument to work with. And how will I understand that, right? Without any guidance, I will just like use my intuition, right? So again, like, I think it depends on the complexity of the product and industry, but definitely there are some of the best practices. And I think the great approach is, just for product managers, is just forget about that you are a professional in this industry or in your kind of product, and just make your own kind of path in terms of using, like, your first time user. Like, what are the items that basically overload your experience? Like, what are the main kind of things, how we can, so basically, in my approach, I also ask my question, like, how we can make it more straightforward and save time. So I think following this approach will help people find this balance between overloading and guiding in their products.
Well, there's also this kind of, I don't know what the cognitive bias is, like, there's a kind of curse of knowledge or familiarity bias or something like. There's this idea that product managers, the people that are loading the stuff up with this stuff, that they kind of forget what it's like to actually be onboarded into their product, right? And one of
Yeah.
the kind of common pieces of advice that people come up with is like, you should create a new account in your product like once every now and then, like whatever, once a quarter or something like that. Like, sign up from scratch and try and look at it with fresh eyes and see what happens, and like what your pain points are, and what annoys you, and what like holds you back and stuff. So I'm going to challenge you on this one. Like, when was the last time you did that on your product?
I think a month ago.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because it's a good practice. Because, as we discussed previously, products, they evolve if you're especially on the growth kind of stage, right? And it's sometimes you have to kind of fix your picture of reality, I would say, in terms of, like, are we okay now, or we're just only going forward and we don't look back, which I think is the mistake. If you want kind of a sustainable growth, uh, as a product manager, you also have to keep in mind, like, the initial stage and the last stage, in terms of, like, imagine you are a power user, you know everything, so that it will help you just to to keep staying present.
But another thing that you see with some products, and again, I'm thinking maybe more on the ERP scale of things, or the end of the scale, versus, like a fairly simple, for example, B2C search app or something like that, where it's got, like 150,000 different buttons, and there's all these different bits of functionality that you can do and use cases that you can do with it. And rather than going in app with the guidance, like maybe they'll have either like a support team or an implementation team that will customers will work with to get on board and kind of get to the aha moment almost manually, or they'll have like training sessions and kind of academies and stuff like that that they build outside of the app.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of joy or love for those types of things as additional approaches? Because of course, like what you've been speaking about at the moment is very much sort of in-app, but it kind of feels that if I were going to have in-app guidance on some resource management, supply chain management system or something, like there'd be so many things to guide me through that I'd actually almost prefer having someone to walk me through it.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, for example, we're currently in the integration phase with a kind of very complex platform, leader in the market, and they basically have a lot of kind of add-ons, etc., etc. So, I think the good approach here is just the combination, and maybe some of our listeners know about like the approach for creating the product enablement team that will basically highlight and teach basically some of the kind of hidden gems in the product that couldn't be explored like on the fly from the first like months or of using your product. So they can basically, it's something like the training sessions or webinars as well, or it depends on the average contract value, because you can also kind of manage that in terms of provide more personalization for their specific use cases as well. Yeah, so um, I think companies should kind of also identify at that point where their platform or their business has become quite complicated, so that they can create the additional unit for additional customer education, uh, for example, selling add-ons or utilizing or increasing adoption for that for those add-ons as well.
So as per usual, as with everything in product management, it depends, right? Like obviously, I think that's an important point though. Like kind of feels like there isn't a one size fits all kind of approach in your opinion, but like however people do it, like whether they do it using in-app guidance or whether they personalize the journeys, whether they rely on external enablement teams or whatever it is that they do. How many companies, if you had to sort of, finger in the air, like how many companies do you think are doing a good job, like proportionately compared to doing a bad job or no job? If you can even make that guess, like based on things that you see, products that you work on, have worked on in the past, products that you use, what's the balance, do you think, that people that are doing it well versus not?
Yeah, another really great question. So I think the numbers, like in terms of like the industry numbers, in terms of like how many companies we have that are on the growth stage, they speak louder than anything. So in my opinion, there's still a lot of space for improvement for the majority of the companies in terms of um, how they kind of communicate this approach in terms of education and onboarding in general. So if we were doing good, then we will have a lot of like high growing companies. But in my opinion, I think definitely it's around like 30-40% of successful companies in that space, because I mean the main and the kind of the most widespread mistake is that majority of the products or companies, they do not understand customer jobs really well and how they can
Yep.
be differentiated from other in this kind of tough AI era. So yeah, just because of that, you just start with basically understanding your strength, use cases, jobs, and then you can basically decide how to structure your onboarding and education strategy, if it's required or not. So, for example, if we're talking about like the specific industry, for example, for developers, sometimes they just need some basic education because they're quite technical, right? But it depends on your audience as well.
You mentioned AI just then, and I guess that's maybe an interesting sort of area to focus on as we kind of wrap up. Is like obviously AI is here. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's trying to cram it into their tools, and yeah, people are going to be cramming it into their tools and then need to have kind of additional guidance around that. But also AI could be used by product teams to potentially help with some of this stuff as well. So what have you seen, or what are you seeing in kind of implementation slash kind of like the product team using this to help them do some of the things that you're advocating for? Is there kind of a strong AI play there at the moment?
Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of like I think there these days there is no like kind of single tool for that because there are already kind of some kind of adaptations for the product tools or something like that, but with using AI. So me personally, it just saves time in terms of brainstorming the kind of how you can basically create the or like start thinking about like the next experiment. Definitely, it saves a lot of time in terms of data analysis with some of the kind of product analytics tools that already kind of use display this kind of natural language kind of form of questions where you just don't have to search for the specific event. It just answer your question right away. And it also AI definitely helps with analyzing customer feedback and create buckets for your kind of roadmap. It also can give you ideas for your roadmap based on your data, which is insane. Yeah,
Yeah, make sure to apply human judgment on the back of it, though, otherwise everything's
yeah,
going to start to look the same, right?
yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, if people want to come and talk to you after this, and they think that there might be something to what you're saying, or they just want to catch up or connect with you, where can they come and do that after this?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, and also I have a ADP list kind of a mentorship for kind of people who think about like switching to product kind of industry or product topic as well, or discuss some of the maybe questions or brainstorm. So they can also find me there.
Nice. I'll make sure to link that into the show notes, and hopefully some people come and do just that. But all I can do for now is thank you very much for your hot take.
Thank you very much, Jason.